Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast, the place for smart, simple strategies that will amplify your business results. Sharing practical tips, insider knowledge, and actionable advice because marketing is something that every business owner can do. Now, let's get started. Introducing your host, Bianca McKenzie, mum, lover of snow sports, camping, horse riding, and in-demand launch strategist and Facebook advertising knowledge bank.
Hey there, and welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast. I hope you're well and keeping warm. I know that some parts of Australia have had some really cold weather, including us here in Tassie. And I actually had to test my fire building skills last week because it was freezing and I had both kids at home with me like I do every Wednesday. And normally I spend the majority of my day in my office where I run the heat pump. And for non-Tassies, that is a reverse cycle air conditioner, but they call it a heat pump. But yeah, with both of my little ones at home, we spend our day in the lounge room and I had to just build a fire. So yeah, I built my first fire in the fireplace in this new house. And I only had to revive it once because it had almost gone out. And after that, it was blazing and toasty warm. We could pretty much sit in our t-shirts all day. And it's actually quite funny how many things in life are analogies for my life as an ads manager. So as I was thinking about how I had to revive the fire, I realized that it's often the same with marketing and funnels. Sometimes launches are doing well and everything sort of happens to plan, but then sometimes they almost fizzle out. So we have to take action to revive them and get that flame going again, especially towards the end of, a cart closing and things like that. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today too, about launches and how to get better and better. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about launch debriefs and why they are a must and how to go about them. So let's first talk about what I mean by a launch, because there are lots of things that you can launch. And when I talk about launches, I'm speaking about sales period for an online program, a course, or a membership. So what happens with a client launch is that we spend a certain amount of time building up the client's audience. We also build the email list, and then they open cart for their program, generally with an event like a webinar or a challenge. And some of my clients launch in addition to having an evergreen funnel, which means that their courses can always be purchased and the cart never closes. But they do have launches to sort of fuel that. Oh, there we go. Analogy girl again, to fuel that launch. So, and for these launches, the incentive to join during a launch is often a bonus that expires. So there is an incentive. It's just that extra boost on top of their evergreen funnels. And other clients have specific open cart and close periods, and they run their programs for a predetermined amount of time. And whichever way you want to do this, you need a launch debrief. You always need a debrief. But before you have a launch, you need to set some goals and have your infrastructure in place to support your launch goals. And I won't go into the infrastructure today, but let's quickly touch on setting some launch goals. And if you've never launched your course or your product before, or you haven't launched in the way that you're launching now, as in you're adding new things or you have a new something in that launch, you need to set some goals that you aspire to and that you think are realistic, but keep in mind that this launch might be a test and you're initially collecting data that will help you improve your future launches. Okay, so let's talk about launch goals. Your first goal should be to determine how many students you want in your course. And of course, you want as many students as you can, but let's keep it realistic and look at the size of your audience. So, how many subscribers do you have on your list? How many of these subscribers are already students? So you exclude them. How many of your subscribers are the right fit for your offer? How engaged are your subscribers? How many people follow you on Instagram and Facebook? How engaged is your audience on these platforms? How many website visitors do you have each month? And that excludes students. So there's lots of numbers that you need to look at, and you need to know these numbers to make an informed choice or informed choices on how many purchases you could expect with your current audience, and also how many new people you need in your audience and on your list to make additional sales. So based on your current audience, how many sales could you make? And based on your goal, how many people do you need to add to your audience? And I'm talking about these numbers. Generally, the conversion for an online program is 1% to 3%. Sometimes if you launch with an event such as a webinar, it could go up a little bit. So once you have set your launch goal, you need to get to work on reaching this goal. Generally, the way a launch works, or at least the launches that I work on with my clients, is that we run Facebook ads to increase my client's audience and list, which are then followed with open cart or retargeting ads. And even though I only work on the advertising component, I do need to know about the other numbers in the funnel to know if a launch was successful or where improvements can be made. I like to brainstorm these things with my clients as well. Sadly, too many business owners who launch for the first time skip over the essential debrief and they're onto the next thing, especially if they didn't get the numbers they wanted. They often discard the whole thing and said, okay, it didn't work. I'm going to go and do something else. And it's so important to look at all of your numbers and try again. And there are quite a few successful online marketers out there that advocate for working on a funnel, just one funnel, as long as necessary until it makes you $1 million. And I have to agree with them. So many people stop at the one launch and go, okay, it didn't sell. I'm going to go on to the next thing. And launching once and then moving on to the next thing isn't going to bring in the big bucks. You just will be you'll be chasing your tail the whole time, because you'll go from thing to thing to thing to thing and nothing will ever work. So this is why a launch debrief is so important. You need to review. You need to look at all of your numbers to see where you can make improvements. So the first task after a launch is to send all of your subscribers an email to ask why they didn't purchase. And this will give you the biggest insight and the most valuable information. Yes, it is super scary to do this because it's a big thing to ask. And if you're worried that nobody's going to respond, offer them an incentive for talking to you or completing your survey. You need to know why people didn't purchase so that you can rectify it in the next launch. They might be confused about the offer still. They might have unanswered questions. They might not want it in the format that it is delivered. And you need to ask them. You need to ask them why they didn't purchase. After that, look at all of your numbers and start with the top of the funnel. So how many new people did you add to your list that you could email them and nurture them? What was the opt-in conversion rate on your landing page? So out of the number of people that went to the landing page, how many actually put in their email address? And you want this to be over 30%. I'm a high achiever. I like to be above 50%. See what you are happy with, because some industries, the benchmark is just a little bit lower. Then work your way down the funnel. So how many people actually downloaded your opt-in gift if it was a download? Or how many people actually watched your video training or attended your webinar? What were your open rates for each of the emails in your funnel? How many emails did you actually send? And how many did you use to remind people that cart was closing? What was the click rate on your email? So how many people actually clicked on a link in your email, and how many people visited your sales page? How many people added to cart? How many people purchased? There's so many numbers that you need to look at, and each step, each one of these things will tell you a story. And it is called a funnel because that's what it is. And I'm going to be blunt and say that the amount of people you put in at the top determines how many people you end up at the bottom, like people that purchase. And of course, it is slightly more complicated than that because you need to put the right type of people in at the top, then nurture them until a number of them purchase your offer, like at the bottom. And I also don't really like talking about people in terms of numbers because they're people, like actual human beings with families, lives, feelings. But at the same time, launching is maths and a little bit of creativity. Like it is literally all numbers. And as much as I dislike saying it, it is about the numbers and also about your relationship with your audience, but it is numbers. The size of your audience matters. Okay, so now that we've established that, let's go back to the debrief. You need to analyze each stage of your funnel to see where you can make improvements. But hold on. But before you make any changes and try again, I want you to make only one change and then try again. There might be several stages of your funnel that could do with improvements, but you need to pick one. Choose the one that you think will have the biggest impact. Then what you need to do is make the change and then try again. And the reason for only making one change is if that you make multiple changes, you won't know what made the difference in the end. So if your email open rate was low, make a change to your email subjects to see if it improves. And if it does, do another debrief to see if you can make more changes. I know it's tedious, and as a course creator, you're probably hoping to get onto the passive, or as I like to think, leveraged income bandwagon and sit back and relax. But for the majority of entrepreneurs, it's a very different story. And the ones that stick with it and keep making improvements, they see results after a while. And I've been doing this for 8 years now, or over 8 years, and I've never met a funnel that worked straight out of the gate. And even then, the ones that do work, mostly not straight out of the gate, but the ones that do work, they still get tinkered with to see if they can be improved. And then after a while, you might need to replace your lead magnet or come up with a different webinar title or different content. To be honest, the work is never really done. But if you have a solid offer and you know your ideal clients well, you're already a long way ahead of everyone else. So keep going. Make sure that you debrief and review your launch each and every time. And if you're ready to add more people to your audience, I highly recommend using Facebook ads to grow your audience and your list. It literally goes much faster, but only if the rest of your funnel is working and converting. There's no point in putting more people in at the top when they're not purchasing at the bottom. So get that working first, then start adding more people at the top of the funnel. So if that is you and it is your funnel and it's working, get in touch with me if you want your ads done for you. Or join Advisory, which is the must-have online program to DIY your ads. I will drop both of the links in the show notes, and I can't wait to connect with you. Cool. Well, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I can't wait to share more with you next week. If you're ready to take your business to the next level with Facebook and Instagram advertising, make sure you visit newschoolofmarketing.com to download practical free resources, plus subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Until next time, take care and market your business every day.